I don't think either one of us is going to make the Australian Open anytime soon. We're not playing enough.
No,
but
you won. You won. Colin won. You're much better than me at this point in time. It's very much the preseason, though. We're like if the Lakers and the Clippers got now and played. That's what I would equate it to.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so let's start with this. Everybody now Michael says, I wanted to come back for one more year. Give me a 7th championship. And I'm like, I don't know. They look pretty offensively challenged, Doug. What do you make of the claims that they could have come back and won a 7th?
I thought Phil Jackson, who didn't have a ton of input on the documentary, I thought he put it well. It was time to go. It just was. Let's get the context of the time. Yes, there was a lot caused a 50-game season. Okay. Maybe Jordan could have gotten healthy by then, and maybe Scottie could have been healthy by then. But Dennis Rodman barely played in the NBA after that.
Yeah.
He was never really the same. Scottie Pippen was never really the same. And you saw how hard it was for Jordan and the Bulls at 6th championship. The idea that a 7th was possible? Sure. Was it likely? No. This is one of those, are you somebody who leaves a party 15 minutes early or 15 minutes late? And, I think they left it 15 minutes early. Look, Jordan thinks to this day, if he got in shape, he could play in the NBA. Jordan never thinks he would lose. So let's not take his word for it. Whether they could have afforded it. The reality was there did need to be an overhaul of the roster. Whether it needed to be a complete rebuild or not, I don't agree with that idea. But I like that it came out that Phil was offered an additional year of contract. I like that it came out that Jordan said, I would have come back. I don't understand why they didn't get everybody in the room and try and do it all at once. That part is a flaw if they really wanted to make it happen. But I don't think it was a strong likelihood they would have done it again. The fact that they did have Michael Jordan, and they would have likely had Phil Jackson if they could have run it back.
All right, so Scottie Pippen, who I covered in Portland, I thought he was a good guy, and I thought he played hurt a lot. He played hard, and he played hurt a lot when I was in Portland. He was on the floor a lot. He and Barkley didn't get along, but I think Scottie was a better practice player and was a little bit more driven. Charles was just more talented, and they just oil and water, it didn't work. But he doesn't like the way he's being viewed in this documentary. He thinks it's unfair. What say you?
I mean, the thing hurting Scottie Pippen is Scottie Pippen in this documentary. When he didn't go in against the Knicks because the play was run for Tony Kukoc, all he had to say was, hey, man, 26 years later, I wish I had gone into the game, and I'm so happy that Tony Kukoc made the shot. He wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it. Instead, he gave the whole, I wish it never happened. But if it happened again, I would do it again. Those are your words. They're not anybody else's words. I thought they tried to paint him as a sympathetic figure about the contract early on when it was his decision to sign that contract. Okay. And they didn't paint a clear picture. Jordan was massively underpaid until the last 2 years of his deal when he signed those two, $30+ million deals, right? With the exception of that, Jordan was wildly underpaid because that was the time. Don't forget, Magic Johnson signed a 25-year, $25 million deal. Guys signed up for longevity. Guys signed up for security. That's what Scottie Pippen. They painted him as a sympathetic figure early, and late they painted him as a warrior, playing through injury, playing hurt, back locked up, just went and got it out. This wasn't the director. This wasn't Michael Jordan. The only part that paints Scottie Pippen in a negative light is Pippen. And sometimes you have to live with it. He was a great player. He was never the second best player in the NBA. Never. Okay. But he was probably the best second player in the history of the NBA. He just fit. He got it. He understood it. He was never a true leader, but he was a great attaché. It's like a great vice president. Doesn't always make president, but man, that guy's a great number 2.
So executives today are saying, and I think players like to win, so they could play with Michael today. Guys like to win. That's why NBA guys move to cities and take less money because they want to win. They want to be playing May and June, and so do their shoe companies. They want them playing May and June. People say, though, Kevin Durant couldn't have played with him. Very sensitive guy. Mike's brutal. Do you buy that?
I agree with the premise that some would say it would be hard for some to play with Michael Jordan because he challenged guys, because he practiced so hard, because he was so driven, and because he was unquestionably the alpha. Look, Kobe Bryant struggled to get free agents to sign with him. granted, again, the context is important. Kobe Bryant never wanted to be number two, neither did Michael Jordan, but Kobe Bryant's skills diminished at a certain point where he had to be a number two. That would have been if Michael Jordan held on for 3 years. As for Kevin, I disagree. Like, look, Kevin Durant's issues are with leaking things to the reporters. Kevin Durant's issues are with guys, what he thinks are turning on him. Kevin Durant's a ball guy. He also, at least this is what he believes, the reason he goes back at people on Twitter is because that's how he is with his buddies. They go back and forth. They talk trash to each other. And that's perfect for Michael Jordan. Now, I don't know how he would have fit in terms of the confines of an offense and fit in terms of the coaching style of Phil Jackson. But I do think there are a certain number of players that would have worked. It's finding the right mix. And that really is maybe the best part that came from the last episode is even Scottie Pippen, as much as he despised Jerry Krause and how Jerry Krause acted at, he admitted, look, Jerry Krause might be the best GM of all time. I would say it was Jerry West, your previous guest, but the idea that Jerry West figured out what type of personalities, what type of players could not only play for Phil Jackson and could play in the pressure of the NBA Finals, but could play alongside Michael Jordan. There's like a psychological test that he had to run, and he found the right mix of guys. And I think you could find the right mix of guys if you had him, if he was empowered. Would it be everybody in the league? No. And also keep in mind, one of the echoers of this sentiment is Channing Frye. Now look, Channing Frye obviously enjoyed his experience playing with LeBron James, but Kyrie Irving didn't. Okay. And, oh yeah, by the way, Kawhi Leonard had a chance to play with LeBron James, didn't want to. Paul George didn't want to. How many guys have we seen had the opportunity to go to LA and decided not to? It's not easy. And the big thing that I don't know if anyone said, so you can credit me with it if you'd like, or you can take it for your own, is when Jordan lost, and he obviously never lost in the finals, but he lost to the Magic, he lost to the Pistons previously. When he lost, it was about Michael Jordan's failures. Whether it's Michael Jordan failing to trust his teammates or the coaches failing to put Michael Jordan in position. When LeBron has lost, remember, with the exception of the Maverick series, which I actually don't think was as much his fault as it's being made out to be, when LeBron's lost, it's always somebody else's fault. His teammates didn't step up. His teammates were, Kyrie was hurt. Well, Kyrie left, or, Kyrie and Kevin Love were hurt. And again, those are accurate statements. But when Jordan lost, it was about Jordan. He accepted responsibility. When LeBron lost, he wouldn't personally say it, but others would echo it. Hey, LeBron did all he could. So I do think that we're looking through it through an unfair lens of someone like Channing Frye, who loved playing with LeBron James and got it, and taking his word for it when he never experienced playing for Jordan, and all he knows is watching through a documentary, isn't an accurate portrayal. So
there's a poll that came out. 73% of people said Michael's better than LeBron. Does that surprise you at all?
No. I've always been a Jordan is the best player I've ever seen guy. That Jordan was a guy that you knew it was coming and there's nothing you could do to stop it. Case in point, Game 6, NBA Finals, 1998. Jazz knew it was coming. There's nothing they could do to stop it. On the other hand, you and I spoke in this very same setting before the document. Did you really think he was going to have creative control over a documentary that didn't paint him as the greatest player ever? Right? Like, who does that? Let's do a doc, okay, about your last year, but at the end, we're going to leave some ambiguity as to how great you were all time in comparison to everybody else, right? And that's not the way it works. So, not surprising. We do, on the other hand, we're these curious creatures where the last thing we see is the most impressive thing we see. And it sucks for LeBron because he was having a marvelous season. He was leading the Lakers. They had just beaten the Bucks. They had just beaten the Clippers. And if this was properly timed out, it would have been a better debate. Now it feels like there's no debate. Maybe we'll see if LeBron can take the Lakers in a NBA shortened season and win an NBA title, but that'll feel like an asterisk. I'm not surprised. I think he's wired differently. I think he's probably a better all-around man. But I think that Michael Jordan's the greatest player ever, and the timing of the documentary and everybody watching it and the painting of the documentary makes it so that it's really hard to find any way to put LeBron at this point in time ahead of Michael Jordan.
Yeah, good stuff. It'd be interesting Joy mentioned it earlier. What if the playoffs were going on and LeBron was just tearing it up and he's beating the Clippers, and then I think he'd have a shot, because I do think Doug, if LeBron could win a championship with the Lakers, wow. I mean, it'd be like Brady winning in Tampa and then saying, I'm going to go to the Chargers. It would be the one thing where I think it would give LeBron a little momentum in a couple years if he won with the Lakers, that it would split it down the middle. There's always going to be the loyalist to MJ, but good God, if LeBron could win a third championship with a third team, boy, Doug, that is unbelievable in my lifetime, right?
No, it would be. And I think, look, there's an interesting thing here in that, LeBron has always had this kind of stacked team since he left Cleveland the first time. I mean, what we forget is when he led the Heat not only became a superpower in the East, but the Celtics aged, and then he kicked out a leg from the Celtics getting Ray Allen, right? He joined forces with Chris Bosh. That completely debilitated the Toronto Raptors. Those were both playoff teams, championship caliber team, or at least the Celtics were championship caliber teams. He took away those two contenders and then took away Cleveland, who was the best team in the East, when he joined the Heat with Dwayne Wade. So it was like three competitors went away and they all became a super team. In the West, he hasn't been able to do that with the Clippers. So yes, I think it would make a much more interesting argument. Look, the difference is in wiring though, right? Like, I thought that Jordan's desire and ability to take and make the big shot, even early on, is spectacular. He had to learn to trust his teammates, whereas LeBron has always deferred if possible, and then has had to learn to become the dynamic go-to scorer. And even sometimes then he can lose his confidence. With Jordan, never seemed to lose his confidence. Hey, I have a question for both of you guys. This is an honest question. Do you believe the pizza story from 1997? Okay, they had 23 years to come up with why Jordan was sick the flu game. And this is what we're told. Okay, Michael Jordan, who's got two security guys and Tim Grover travel with him, Jordan's hungry. Now, I don't know about you, but if Michael Jordan's hungry, everybody scurries about and goes and finds Michael Jordan food. So Michael Jordan picks up the phone and says, hey, you're the only pizza place in Salt Lake City that's open. I'm Michael Jordan. Bring a pizza and don't just leave it at the front door. I want you to come directly to my room. And then there's 4 people that come to his room. Like, you couldn't come up with a better story. And then that's the one pizza that, like, if one of the security guys got him a pizza and he happened to eat the pizza, and by the way, crushing an entire pizza all by himself, also kind of hard to, like, all of these things, like, okay, I'll go along with a lot of these stories, but I was born at night, not last night.
Well,
do you believe the pizza story is why he was sick in game 5 in 90?
Yes, because as somebody who spends a lot of time in Utah, it closes really early. And, there's the old joke about Spokane, Washington. Nothing happens in Spokane after 10 in the morning. Utah, I can absolutely at 10 o'clock in Salt Lake City see somebody, especially in that time. Now, it's a different time now with Uber and deliveries, but literally everything being closed and saying, hey, man, we got, you know what? I can see him calling.
But they knew, but listen, Michael Jordan always did at his hotels, he stayed under an assumed name. Okay. How did they know Jordan's room? How did they know that he ordered the pizza? Why were there 4 guys at the delivery? Like, and is Tim Grover leading us to believe that they knowingly, willfully poisoned his pizza, or was it simply undercooked meat? What kind of pizza was it? What kind of pizza? You mean to tell me that Michael Jordan gets sick in game 5?
Yeah.
And this is the secret, and you don't know the pizza place's name? Of course you do. Like, I'm sorry. I love Michael Jordan. I believe he's the greatest player ever. I don't buy that story. There's way too many holes in that story. You had 23 years. You couldn't come up with a better story?
Well, that's why I believe it, because you would come up with a better story, and that's not a great story, so that's probably the truth, because you'd come up with something way slicker than that, and it ends up being clunky. I got to go. Doug Gottlieb.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd, or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.